Hi, this is Pastor Ken. I'm doing a series of messages called Entering the Promised Land with Pastor Ken. And the scripture I'm going to read to you is Psalm 121, a song of decrees, which was to be read when you're traveling. And the Israelites had to do a lot of traveling. I'm outside here, and I'll explain to you why. I will lift up mine eyes to the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. He that keepeth thee will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and forevermore. That is Psalm number 121. Now I'm standing at an intersection, as you can well tell. There's a lot of noise here, and I'm going to explain to you why. My first night before I was to preach, I went to take a walk, and that would be a Saturday night, and I'm scheduled to preach Sunday morning for the first time as pastor at the Market Street Presbyterian Church in Lima, Ohio. So I took a walk, and I wasn't really watching too much of what I was doing. I was crossing this road here. This is Allentown Road and Cable. And I came across the road, and I was watching to see where I was going in future steps, not close steps. And I came across the road right about here. I came across the road right about here, and I was looking over there. Now, what I didn't know was there was something in front of me. I did not see, and here it is. As you can see, it's a pretty decent sized hole. And as I was walking, my foot went into it. Now, it went in such a way, actually it went more into this angle, this way. And because I was proceeding in that direction. And then I went down very quickly, and I struck my head upon guardrail here. Now, thank God the guardrail is made of wood, so it probably would have been a lot worse if it was made of metal. And so I just sort of laid here for a little while, and I really didn't feel like moving, to be honest with you. And there was traffic going by me here on the road, and the traffic was just sort of the way it is right now. And I was lying along the road. I was a little like the Samaritan. I was a little like the Samaritan in the parable Jesus told. And I really didn't feel like getting up. But eventually I did get up, and I began to walk away. And when I did, the ambulance came, and they said, "Are you all right?" I said, "I think I'm all right." And I went back and put ice on my head for about 3 days, and I recovered. I was cautious, but the reason I'm telling you this is, if you enter the promised land, you're going to go in by foot, and we're going to walk. Now, you got to watch where you're walking, because here it is. think I'll put my Bible in there just to show you. This is a big King James print Bible. It's big. So I'm going to put that in there like that, just to show you. And then I'll put it in there like this. And I'll put it in there like this. Okay, that's where my foot went, and then I went kaboom. Kaboom. And I struck the wooden guardrail. So, what I'm trying to say is that the Lord will keep you and suffer your foot not to be moved. Now, my foot was moved, and I did fall. And I think it was the devil trying to stop me from becoming preacher at Market Street Church. But I thank God I was fine, and I thank God that I recovered quite well from it. So, heed to that scripture. If you're going to enter the promised land, know that God is with you when you're walking. And walking in scripture is symbolic of living. So, when you're walking, you're living. The Bible tells us to not walk by sight, but by faith. Well, I needed my sight on that one right there. So the lesson is, if you're going to enter the promised land, know that God is there to help keep your footing steady. And He will watch over you. Now, once again, there's where I was. Just beyond that telly pole there is where the hole is. And these cars come a-passing by. Now, there's another lesson in this little story, and I didn't tell it for this lesson. But the other lesson is this. You see how close these cars are to where I was actually lying flat after I hit my head? I was not unconscious, but I did hit my head, and I didn't feel like getting up. Now, sad to say, not one individual got out of their car and came over to me. Not one. Not one. Now, I'm not trying to necessarily put anyone at fault, but we're now living in a day and age where people do not stop and they do not render personal aid like I knew when I was growing up. And indeed, like I knew as a young man, I would stop. I would stop and help people. I wasn't afraid. So the fear levels are very high right now, and as close as these cars were, and it was a time and hour in which the traffic was literally backed up, and they saw me flat, and maybe they thought I was faking, maybe they thought I was drunk or something, I don't know, but nobody stopped. So the other parable, or the other story, is about the Good Samaritan. How one person did stop, the one that you wouldn't expect, the Samaritan. The clergy walked on by, but it was the Samaritan, the ones who were dreaded and hated by the Jewish nation at that time. The Samaritan stopped and rendered aid to the man who had been beaten up by thieves and robbers along the road. So I know you might be afraid to stop, and I know that probably the best thing to do is to call for help. But heaven's sakes, I was right along the side of the road here. It wasn't that big of a risk for someone to stop and get out of the car and literally come over and A, check to see if I'm all right, B, help me up. Of course, they had no idea I had fallen in a hole, and they had no idea I struck my head on this stupid guardrail right here. So I'd like to say, as you try to enter the promised land, know that God is there to help you with your footing. And by that I mean to help you live right on this earth, to help you walk right. And walk means live correctly, live a holy life, live for Him. God's help is always there. And even if you fall, God's help is still there. I recovered nicely, but I was extremely embarrassed, and I was hoping that no one at Market Street Church would notice a boo-boo right on my forehead, because I had just fallen on Saturday night, and that Sunday morning was to be my first morning as preacher at Market Street Church. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. End of video.